So at one point in one of the sessions, it was like I put my hand right into her body and I saw this tap, and I switched the tap on, and it was like I drained all of her energy out of her system, and then I put new energy in. And this kind of thing is exactly kind of like what seems to be happening for me, is that in sessions things are becoming a lot more visual. And so, but visual in such an interesting way. Like, I mean, they've always been kind of visual from the beginning, but the visuals now are just so interesting. So I wanted to take this video and it described 3 different stories about 3 different occasions in the sessions. So the first one is where basically I felt like so these are all things obviously that are happening in sessions when I'm doing Kundalini activation, just in case you haven't come to my channel before. So it felt like my arms were swinging kind of over this person's body. And it was like my arms had become like a pendulum, like they were just swinging, and it's like something kind of took over, and it was like the movement of it actually just took over. And like I became the movement, but not in like a non-dual way, just in a kind of flow way. Like there was so much flow to this movement of my arms swinging. And then this sound kind of came out, and it was like 4 different notes, and I was kind of going through each one, and it just became louder and louder. And so I felt like I became the sound, and I became this movement, and it was going, and it was just like, it was very balanced, and it was almost like I couldn't even stop it. It was just, I was so in the flow that it was, you know, like the movement was just happening by itself, and the sound was just happening by itself. And it was like, in a way, it's like I didn't really want to stop it because it was just so enjoyable. But then it kind of just slowed down. And then I felt like I wanted to go to their third eye and their crown chakra and just put my hands there. So I did. And then this sound came out that was like, ba, 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 and it kept on building. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, I wonder where this is going to go, because, you know, and there was like an intensity to it, and a kind of like, I couldn't, I had this thought like, don't stop, and like go with it as much as you could, because sometimes, especially with like sounds, sometimes you can kind of, I don't know, it's a bit like doing a tongue twister in a way sometimes, not totally, because tongue twisters are like difficult, but you know how you can sometimes get tied up. So I'm kind of like trying to loosen myself as much as I can into this sound, as this sound is coming out, and it's building, and then suddenly the person just lets out this scream, and it was like this pressure, just this release of this pressure from her energy. And then I started to scream, and it was just like we were both in that moment just letting out this pressure that was in her energetic system. And that was just fascinating. Like, I just love the stuff that happens, but that was one of the more memorable things that happened recently. Okay, second one was to do with this Shiva energy. And I felt like in the session, it was like I had my eyes closed, because I'd kind of got this feeling from her energetic system that to kind of back off a little bit, to be a bit more gentle with her system. So I kind of backed off, and I wasn't kind of touching her body anymore. I was literally just sat in front of her with my hands out like this, and with my eyes closed. And I was kind of essentially just tuning in, like, what does this body need, essentially? What does this energy need from me in this moment? And then what came through was just this very soft dancing energy. And I felt like I was pushing this kind of soft Shiva energy into her body. And then it was kind of it was coming back at me. It was kind of coming back. And it was like, if I could kind of describe the movement, it was like a swing, but like slowed down, you know? And it was kind of coming, I was pushing it out. And as I was pushing it out, it was coming back to me. And it felt very soft and gentle and grounded. And that's when I felt like I could put my hand into her body, and I saw this tap, and I turned the tap on, and all of her energy just drained out of her system. And that's when I saw this mist all around her body. And sometimes this mist kind of feels like the Shiva energy, and I'm just pushing this mist into her body. So it's almost like I'd switched on the tap, drained all of her energy that was in there, and then I was replacing or putting in this Shiva energy that was basically just feels like unconditional love and stillness. So it was like this unconditional love and this stillness that I was just kind of patting into her body. And it was like her system was being filled up again, but with this different type of energy that she had, which again was so beautiful. Like, that was, I remember talking to her about it afterwards and just saying, like, that was one of the most like amazing, just amazing sessions in terms of like, you know, how connected I felt, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because I was, you know, like we could say that perhaps we could feel the energy more if I'm, you know, touching her body and there's some connection there, but there doesn't need to be any touching or anything like that. It's just completely. And I think because also I just sat there and was fully open to whatever, you know, needed to happen, that that she kind of got this Shiva energy, which is really, really beautiful. And I'm going to talk about the Shiva energy in another video because I think it's worth mentioning. And then another session where somebody had come to me, and we were kind of in the meditation part just before the session begins. And so I hadn't even, you know, started, but as soon as I closed my eyes, this visual of their heart chakra just opened, and it was like a lake, like a still lake of water. And I felt like I could put my hand into the water. And as I put my hand into the water, I mean, bear in mind, I am not anywhere near them. I'm kind of sitting in my own space whilst they're enjoying the meditation, which I play. So this is all happening visually in my mind. And I'm just seeing, and so I'm literally just sitting in front of them essentially. And as I put my hand into the water, which feels like their heart chakra, I can put my hand all the way in, right to the very depths, and I put it in, and I pull out like this silt, you know, like that kind of silt that you get right at the bottom of a lake, and I just kind of threw it on the ground. And then I tried to stir it, but then instinctually felt like, oh no, we don't want to stir it. We want to kind of separate them. So I tried to separate the water and the silt, like oil and water. I separated them, and I just sat with this lake and their heart chakra. And then the meditation started to die down, and the music played. So I went over and I put my hand immediately on their heart chakra. And in my mind, I saw, you know, like when you see a magnet and lots of filaments, and the filaments kind of get attracted to the magnet. As I had placed my hand on their heart chakra, it was like all of the silt that I had seen earlier on from the lake, all of it just started magnetizing to my hand like this. And in the end, it was like this block of silt that had kind of magnetized to my hand. And as I pulled my hand up like this, so did all of this silt come out of their heart chakra. And I was moving it up and up and up and up. And then I just kind of took it out of their heart chakra. And that was, honestly, as visuals go, that was so fascinating and so interesting. And how the mind, I think one of the most fascinating things about all of this visual stuff that happens, and how I've previously thought about imagination, like, it seems to me when I'm doing these things that imagination is more real than we because when we think about imagination, we tend to think it's fantasy or something we're making up. But when I'm in these sessions, there's something very real about imagination. When I say imagination, I mean these things are a type of imagining in my mind, although it feels like I am not necessarily imagining them, if that makes sense. It's very hard to articulate, but it's almost as if the imagery just shows up, which I suppose is what's happening anyway. Like, there's no, from a non-duality point of view, there's no one there having the thoughts, creating the thoughts. But it's funny because this energy work, it's almost like the thoughts in energy work have a slightly different flavor to regular thoughts. It's like they have no emotional flavor to them. They're very neutral. They're very neutral. But they're also so vivid as well. Like, you know how dreams can be vivid? So they're very vivid in that way. But anyway, these were just some stories about, visuals in Kundalini activation sessions. And if you'd like to come and experience a session with me, I love tuning into people's energies. Just absolutely love it. Love it when somebody new comes along and I can tune into their energy and pull out the things that you don't need anymore. And if you want to go really deep, maybe even start your own journey into experiencing a Kundalini awakening, though obviously it's not guaranteed with everybody. This is really what the purpose of Kundalini activation is. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, then I will leave some links below. I do online sessions and sessions in London. See you soon.